We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports? We hope that you guys are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. We are starting a little bit early. We do have a lot to get into, a whole hell of a lot to get into tonight. We usually start at 7 o'clock, but due to the nature of what's going on around LSU, I thought it'd be best that we start a little bit early tonight. Look, I'm just going to call it what it is. As I broke the news earlier today, if you haven't seen it, I don't know if anybody else that was putting it out there, but we broke the news today about Myles Brennan being injured. Some things I was hearing earlier today. We'll get into all of that. I will lay the chronological order down of what I've heard, the story that we broke, and put it into context as LSU did confirm my report from earlier today that LSU quarterback Myles Brennan is hurt, is injured with a left arm, and will need surgery. We will touch on that. But we do have a big show in store for you tonight. If you didn't also see over the weekend, AYS versus Texas A&M fans and Texas A&M, I'm going to explain my cryptic tweet our cryptic post as everyone has asked me to do. I didn't think it was warranted to put it into a post. I thought that I needed to come out here and talk about what happened with Texas A&M just on a video and talk about it on a show. That way nothing gets lost in translation. LSU football camp starts this Friday. The team reports on Thursday. We'll touch on that and Rudy Poo of the week that we will get down to at the end of the show. So everybody do me a favor as we're getting started. Hit the like, hit the retweet. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. All right, I usually get to a lot of some of the comments before we get started. We do have a lot. Danny Snow says, bruh. Ryan says, let's go. Prayers from Myles Brennan. Blaine says, Brennan injured, mega conference, ? Mega, I mean, yeah. Henry says, we are live. That we are. Michael says, I heard he tripped and fell at the fishing camp. I will break down the chronological order about Myles Brennan as soon as we get started here. And Adam says, Myles just isn't meant to be the starter. That's something that we're going to have to talk about. And Aaron Adams says, let's go. So let's do this. Before we get started, again, hit the like, hit the share, subscribe, share it to all your social media platforms. We greatly appreciate it. But let's do this. Let's pay some bills before we get started, and then we'll get into this Myles Brennan situation. Very unfortunate, but none better than our good friends over at GM Varno and Sons. Guys, with over 63 years of experience, no one is more equipped to handle all your automotive, RV, and boating repairs more than GM Varno and Sons. GM Varno and Sons has faithfully been serving your Denham Springs and Baton Rouge area for over 62 years. With their highly trained technicians, no one's going to do it better. RV repair, big rig overhauls, motorhome chassis, routine maintenance, tire rotations, tire sales. No job is too big or too small over at GM. Give them a call today at 225-664-9992. That's 225-664-9992. Or go see them over at 2500 Florida Boulevard in Denham Springs, Louisiana. And our good friends over at betonline.ag. Guys, I've been telling you about BetOnline now that it's legal to bet, and not just bet, but use mobile betting in the state of Louisiana. Nobody is more equipped of handling all your betting needs than BetOnline.ag. NFL, MVP, college football, whatever you have, MLB baseball, betonline.ag has you covered. Again, it's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. All right, let's get started. So, guys, I'm going to get to as many comments as I can. They're really firing in here, so if I miss your comment, I do apologize. So let's start here. Around lunchtime today, I heard and started getting some rumors, and I will call them rumors in the beginning, but obviously they weren't. But I started hearing some things about LSU quarterback Myles Brennan. I started putting out some feelers, but sometimes, guys, I hear a lot of rumors throughout the day. Regardless of how big or how small, though, I always feel like I have to track them down just in the simple case of that it might be true. So today around lunch, I started getting a lot of texts. I started getting a lot of DMs about, hey, are you hearing anything about Myles Brennan? I started making phone calls, and around, I'd say 2:30 or 3, around the time that I put out the tweet, I heard from multiple people around the program that Myles Brennan had sustained an arm injury. One person said it was a right arm injury, and why in the beginning I stated it was a right arm. Later, we would come out to find, and LSU then would confirm our report of it being the left arm being broken and him needing surgery. I know a lot of people are asking in the comments currently what specifically happened. The only thing that I can say is I've heard multiple reports so far that I cannot confirm right now. I heard one that he was at a boating launch, possibly on a boat, and that he fell off and injured himself and broke his arm. One person told me that he fell down a flight of stairs. Regardless, it does seem that he tripped and fell when wearing flip-flops down some stairs or at a boat launch. I know that one of those stories is going to really piss people off if it's one of them. And I get what people are saying if it's at boat launch. And look, you're in my comments right now talking about it, and I get that. However, for me personally, I do hate it for Myles Brennan. I do hate that this kid has put in 5 years at LSU. He's been injured in every one of them. However, he's put in the time, he's put in the effort, and especially this offseason, wanting to come back and be the starter, and yet gets hurt again. But that does not mean that he's not going to come back onto this roster. That does not mean that he's not going to come back and play at the end of the year. We need to find out more about what's going on with the left arm. We need to go know more about what's going on with the surgery. But this does obviously solidify that Max Johnson will be your starter. I'm not going to sit here and gloat or say that I've been advocating for Max. And I know that there's some people out there already saying that I'm going to come out here and do it. If you want to come at me, just for whatever reason, I'm talking about on the field, come at me. You don't have to write it down. Oh, Blake said this, Blake said that. I hate it for Myles. I will say, though, I have spoke to 2 players on the team currently, and both of them do hate it for Myles, but they do feel that there's kind of a sense of relief that now this is Max's team. Max can go out there and take all the reps. They can get timing down. There's not a quarterback battle. Even though that they thought and they knew and they felt that Max would be the starter. Guys, I don't know how else to say this other than this. Myles has been hurt all 5 years that he's been at LSU. In 2018, he was injured. Joe Burrow ran out there against Alabama with a dislocated shoulder, non-throwing dislocated shoulder, toughed it out, and you know what happened after that. Same thing with Texas A&M. This continues to go on with Myles Brennan. Although I hate it, we have to talk about the realistic facts of what's going on. Just because I hate it, just because I wanted to see the kid on the field, just because I wanted to see him compete with Max Johnson doesn't mean that we can't look at the scenario that Myles Brennan has always been hurt. And now Walker Howard, who's a guy who's going to be a midterm graduate, is going to come in, December or January? I forget exactly the dates that they report for midterm graduates, but he's going to commit or sign, I shouldn't say commit, sign in December, and he's going to be on campus in January. So then you have Garrett Nussmeier, you have Max Johnson, you'll have Myles Brennan, and you will have Walker Howard. It's starting to feel like that Myles might be the odd man out here. It would not surprise me that after the surgery that Myles puts himself in the transfer portal. Now, how does that help? How does that go with name, image, and likeness? How does that go with Raising Cane's? How does that go with Hollingsworth, Richards 4? I don't know that. I don't know those contracts. I don't know what's going on. I've never read an NIL contract. And I've never seen an NIL contract where a player gets hurt. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes, though. Let's get on the field, and then I'm going to get to some of these comments. But let's get on to the field. Let's talk about Jake Peetz. Jake Peetz is now your offensive coordinator, a guy that wants to run the RPO game. The quarterback that fits his style and his system more is Max Johnson. I think that other than depth, there is a concern about depth. There is a concern like, hey, you only have 2 scholarship quarterbacks, but it's not like we haven't seen this happen before. We saw this in 2018 when the truth was multitudes of times during the season of 2018, Joe Burrow was the only scholarship quarterback that was available during that season, and probably some of those games and some of those hits should have never been in there. We've seen this before. We've seen this all around college football where teams have only 2 scholarship quarterbacks. With a transfer portal and a lot of quarterbacks that transfer to get playing time, A lot of teams have only two scholarship quarterbacks. LSU has been lucky at times where they've had three. In 2019, you had Peter Parrish, you had Myles Brennan, you had Joe Burrow. 18, you had two. And we remember other seasons when you had Myles Brennan, Lowell Narcisse, Danny Etling. So you have had seasons where you've had some depth at that position, but this year you will not have it. LSU cannot go out into the transfer portal and pick up a scholarship quarterback because they don't have the room from this past recruiting class. Now, can they go and ask a guy that's possibly in the transfer portal to walk on? I don't know that. That's something that they're going to have to figure out. But I do think it's interesting that after our report that LSU confirmed the news via a statement, that means that it's pretty serious. One doctor that I've called that I grew up with, I asked him about what could have happened here and some of the things that I heard about Myles' arm. He said that surgery could be anywhere between 8 to 10 weeks of him being out and then extensive rehab after the fact. So, guys, we could go an entire season with Myles Brennan being out, but Max Johnson will be your starter. In no way do I worry about that. That doesn't change my projection for LSU. I still have LSU battling against Alabama in early November to win the SEC West. I still think that LSU still has that talent that they could be 10-2, 11-1, possibly even 12-0. They have that talent. Regardless if that's what the record shows at the end of the season, LSU has the talent to be 10-2, 11-1, and no one can really debate that. No one can debate that. So at the end of the day, nothing changes other than, yeah, I'm a little bit worried about depth, but I still if you're worried about, and here's the thing that I continue to think in my head, is if you're worried about depth, if you're worried about Max Johnson, if you're worried about, Myles Brennan being out, guys, it's not that likely that a starting quarterback goes out. Now, there are times we see quarterbacks that go out, and there's not a lot of times that you see a team that loses two scholarship quarterbacks and you're on a third option. It's very unlikely to happen. Very, very unlikely to happen. So I still think that Myles Brennan, guys, I don't know. I don't know if you move on from him. I don't know if you continue to let him rehab. And look, Myles has an entire other season, but it's back-to-back years that you're likely not going to be with Myles Brennan through a majority of your season. Then you have Walker Howard and other quarterbacks coming in. So we'll see. We'll see. But again, it doesn't change. I still think that Max was going to win the job. The team felt that Max was going to win the job. The truth is, and I've been saying this for months, guys, I posted a video 2 months ago and got ripped to shreds about this, that the team wanted Max Johnson to be the starter. They're rallying behind Max Johnson. Guys, they're going to rally behind him even more. I've been saying this too and kind of got ridiculed on it. This does have a 2019 feel to it a little bit. It does have a 2019 feel. Hey, everybody, Joe Burrow gets lit up by UCF. Has to have an IV after Texas A&M because he's putting it all out on the line while Myles Brennan is injured. Not UCF, but against A&M. And all of a sudden, they start rallying, and they put all of their trust into Joe Burrow. Guys, this team is putting their trust into Max Johnson. It's not even close. Guys are really liking what they see from Garrett Nussmeier. If you don't believe me, ask anybody that covers the team. They'll tell you the same. All right. Gino Vegas, I've been waiting to put this comment up here. He has an interesting point here. TJ Finley left too soon. To every young player in college that listens to me or will see this clip, this is why you wait to transfer. This is why you wait. Now you have a battle between TJ and Max. Even though I believe that Max would have won the job, doesn't matter. You could have stayed there and compete because Myles won't be there. I think it's an interesting point, and I agree with Gino here. I agree with Gino. Casey says, do you think he would have beat Max Johnson anyway? No, I don't think that Myles would have beat Max Johnson anyway. I think that Max was going to be your starter from day one. I've been saying this from the beginning, 3 little letters, RPO. Go watch the Florida game. I posted something on Twitter, a video on my personal Twitter a while back, and it's film breakdown of LSU and Max Johnson and what the simple fact that Max is so good with his feet, what defenses have to do in this RPO game. One play he gives it to Ty Davis Price. The other play he pulls it and runs. And Kayshon Boutte's running a backside slant. The other one he pulls it, he runs, he throws a quick screen to Kayshon Boutte for 10 yards, and LSU's off and moving. That is the offense that Jake Peetz wants to run. And Myles Brennan was not going to be the guy that can run it for you like Max could. He just wasn't that guy. I don't mean that in a wrong way. And it's tough for me to come out here and people will say, well, Blake's crapping on Myles. I'm talking about on the field. Again, if you're just joining us, I do hate that Myles sustained another injury that looks like it could be season ending. Some doctors have, the one that I spoke to said it could be 8 to 10 weeks and then an extensive rehab. Take that for what it's worth. I'm not a doctor. I called one. So take it for what it's worth. Blake Schilling says it's terribly sad, but Max head down working, Myles was fishing. This is a part of what people are going to continue to say, man. Jamie says, #ask Blake, so with Brennan's injury, that leaves LSU with 2 scholarship quarterbacks. How much of a concern is this? It's a concern, but it's not that big of a concern, right? We've seen a lot of teams in the SEC that are down to 2 scholarship quarterbacks. It's happened before. Yes, you would want there to be depth. You would want there to be a position group where you have more than 2 guys, but it doesn't concern me. Guys, if your starting quarterback goes down, regardless if it would have been Max Johnson, if it would have been Myles Brennan, you're going to have issues. I get that depth is always a concern, but I'm going into the season believing that Max Johnson isn't going to be hurt. Why would I go into a season believing that my quarterback's going to get hurt? Now, you got to be prepared for it, but again, it does not change in my perspective that LSU is still talented enough to be a 10-2 team and an 11-1 team because they have talent all across the board. And I had Max Johnson as my starter. Wasn't even close. I get some people are mad at me. It's okay. Philip Rose says, hey, Blake, will you be able to see LSU practice this week? No, I will not be able to see LSU practice this week. I'm going to be out of town Friday. Or out of commission. I shouldn't say out of town, out of commission. Jacob Cole says, also don't think this is helpful for Max. A good quarterback battle would have helped and sharpen him. Look, I get what you're saying, Jacob. I don't really think that Max Johnson cares. I don't think that Myles Brennan, competition always sharpens the betterment of both guys. But I don't think that Max Johnson necessarily needs it because he has that Joe Burrow-like mentality. We saw when players had the week off, every player had the week off. You saw Max Johnson with his dad, with his brother going through intense workouts, getting ready for the season. The kid had no stop in him. He has that laser focus. I get that iron sharpens iron, but I don't have any concerns about Max at all. The last 2 games of what I saw, nothing gives me concerns about what Max Johnson is going to bring. Not at all. The Tide Talk podcast says best wishes for Myles. That's pretty first class there, guys. Pretty first class. Terry says 2 scholarship quarterbacks. What next? Look, maybe you go into the transfer portal and ask a guy that's maybe a lower tier guy that's in there if he would want to walk on to LSU, and at the end of the season, you give him a scholarship. Maybe you pull something like that. Who that would be, where you would find that individual, I don't know. But you better tell Garrett, you better tell Max, this is for depth reasons only. A guy that got a scholarship maybe somewhere else is in the portal, you go get him. That's what I would do. Go find you a walk-on that's still in the portal, maybe a lower tier guy, let him come in, add him as depth. It's what I'd personally do. Little Boosie on YouTube says this is the final year at LSU for Brennan, whether he plays or not. It's a new day going forward next year with the LSU quarterback position, Johnson, Nussmeier, and Howard. I don't disagree with that, guys. I don't disagree with that. I don't agree with Boosie. Look, if you're going to get mad at me, I don't disagree with Boosie. BOOSIEBADAZZ. Yeah, that's me. Wipe me down. I don't disagree with the man who came up with one of the best songs in high school when I was in high school in rap history. Not going to do it. Michael Porter says, okay, that's to somebody else. Paul Bad says, does this change Peach's offensive approach? No, because again, you still have Garrett Nussmeier there. Now, I do think that it changed things in 2019 how Insminger called plays. Remember, we went through a stretch of 8 weeks in a row that Joe Burrow never ran the football. Why do you think that is? Because God forbid Joe Burrow goes down, you have 0 scholarship quarterbacks. The crazy thing about all of that is in 2018 is that, yeah, LSU finally hit their stride there at the end. Guys, they play majority of the season with only 1 scholarship quarterback. The things you know and the things that you don't. Daniel Glenn says, do you think do you think this is the one what cost Myles Brennan a realistic chance at making the NFL roster? Probably so. Probably so. Guys, they're not – why would it – I mean, yeah, maybe you can bring him in as a camp arm, but for him to make a team when he's going through 5 seasons worth of injuries, would you take that risk at giving him one of the 53 spots? You know, I've heard people that cover in media say this specifically about Myles Brennan. There's not 64 quarterbacks in the NFL better than Myles Brennan. That's not true, because the truth is when you have to count in injuries and the guy's never available, that has to account for something. He's not one of the 64 best quarterbacks that would be in the NFL. He's just not. Because when you can't put your cleats on that turf and I feel like I'm just crapping on the kid, and I'm not. But when you can't put your cleats on turf and you can't go out there for your team, guys, you're not a 64 best quarterback in the NFL. If this kid were to be on a team, there's no way. Availability is everything. If you can't be available, your presence doesn't mean a whole lot. I see a lot of people say good evening, just like Richard here. I appreciate you guys. Yep. I hope you guys are going good. I'm skipping over a lot of comments, guys. I'm trying to get to as many as I can. Brayton says, Blake, take a breath. I'm trying, man. I'm not putting that up, Buck. Jacob Marceau says, if Max is the dude we think he is, having a quarterback competition or no matter or not won't matter. I agree with that. Vic says, Blake, they will beat LSU. With their third string. If you're talking about A&M, we'll get to that. C. King says, dude said Myles will be back for the Alabama game to do what? Guys, if it takes Myles Brennan to the Alabama game to be back, he's not coming in and starting. If it takes Myles Brennan 10 weeks to come back, he's not starting. Yeah, he might give you some depth, but guys, other than that, and LSU season would have to be really going by the wayside. It would really have to be going bad. LSU would have to be poo-pooing the bed, and Ed Orgeron would have to be on the hottest of hot seats. No way, guys. Just no way. John says Nussmeier better put his big boy pants on. Now he's quarterback too. That's true. That's very true. Daniel said running backs, here's your shot. Yeah, and Max is going to need this entire offense to step up around him because you don't have the depth anymore. You could maybe have the good feeling that you have Myles behind you and that you have a talented kid in Garrett Nussmeier. But you got to step up for him now. If he's your guy, show it to me. If he is your guy, show it to me. I'm getting a couple of texts just throughout. I texted my friend who's a doctor, and he just keeps saying the same thing. He's just reiterating to me on text that, guys, I mean, look, the Alabama game might be plausible. 8 to 10 weeks with a rehab. That if that's the case, then if he's got to go through rehab, do you throw him out there after just having surgery? Does he have to be in a cast? Does he have, is an open, how does all that work? Does he have to I don't think he'd have to be in the cast if you got to go in there and replace a bone. I mean, that's going to be a long injury. Here's another question, and I hate to bring this up. Does Myles Brennan hang it up? I don't want to, I'm sure he's got a lot of questions that are going through his mind and a lot of concerns that are going through his mind. Guys, I'm gonna be a little open to you here. In 2008, I tore my ACL in my left knee. I was fired up to come back because I knew that I had time. I knew that I can go in there and rehab. There wasn't a lot of pressure on me to start, right? There just wasn't a lot of things playing at Southeastern in 2008. There just wasn't a lot of pressure on me to come in there and do anything. Because the likelihood of me really coming in there and making a big push as a true freshman wasn't likely. Then in 2009, playing and going through it, and at the end of it, tearing my ACL again, and then coming back into the 2010 season, guys, I didn't have it anymore. So when I play a whole season and have the same tear in my left knee going through an entire season, guys, I hung it up. Mentally, I couldn't go through it again. 2010 spring, I gave it everything I got and knew it was over. I knew it was over. And I'm not advocating or saying that for any other reason. Guys, I was not that good. I wasn't that good at all. And I'll be the first one to tell you. God just happened to bless me to be 6'3" and 280, 290 at the time. And I loved football and wasn't going to take no for an answer. But the mentality that you go through when you have a serious injury is nothing to joke about. It's nothing to joke about. It's a mental warfare on your mind. I've been there. I've done that. It's tough when you have to have multiple surgeries. When people tell you, hey, man, you should hang it up. Those people will be there. Then you fight and you come back, and then your body just tells you, hey, brother, it's time to hang it up. You can't do it no more. It's the toughest spot as a player to ever be in. Doesn't matter if you play in high school, college, or you go into the major leagues, you go into the NFL, you go into the MLB, you go into the NBA. You think Kobe wanted to retire? No, he loved playing basketball. God bless his soul. You think Michael wanted to hang it up? No, God bless his soul. Mother Nature comes after us all unless your name's Tom Brady. You think Drew Brees really wanted to not play? The mental warfare, the way that your body reacts to stuff. Look, I have no problem whatsoever being open about it. Stefan says 200 plus eyeballs on the Facebook tonight. I like it. Do us a favor, hit the like, hit the share it to some Facebook groups, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. Got to give a quick shout out to our good friends over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. That's drakewilliamslawfirm.com, 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600. Real estate, successions, DWIs, traffic tickets, anything and everything. They can take care of you today. That's drakewilliamslawfirm.com. My good friend, Mr. John Patton over at GMFS Mortgage. That's GMFS Mortgage, been changing lives since 1999. Buying a new home, saving money on that mortgage you have now, or even doing that cash out refi. The timing has never been better. Get in touch with John Patton today at 225-614-1234. That's 225-665-1234. Tell him Blake Ruffino sent you by. Let's see. I'm going to get to some more of these comments. I know we got a lot to get into, but Myles Brennan is going to take up the entire slot tonight. I will get into A&M. Put in your Rudy Poos of the week. If I guess I can get to the A&M explanation, but there's just so many Myles Brennan questions. I think that we need to continue to do it. And look, as LSU camp starts this week, you go into camp on August the 6th with 2 scholarship quarterbacks. It's not a place you want to be in. Lester says on Facebook Live, what was he doing that caused the injury? So I've said this earlier. I'll repeat it. There's 2 things that I heard. Number one, I heard that Myles was going on a boating trip or was on a boat, fell down, while wearing some flip-flops, broke his arm. I also heard he was at his apartment and fell down some stairs and broke his arm. I have not confirmed that, guys. When I broke the story, started getting a lot of more stuff, had to get ready for the show. That part I've not solidified yet. One thing that a couple people continue to say is something about a yacht and a boat. So if that's the case, then man, you hate to see that. Blaine Smith says, please no to Tate Martell. No, LSU won't go get Tate Martell. But look, as crazy as this is about to sound, if the man gives you quarterback depth and he's not going to play, but he's a locker room cancer, hell no, you can't go get him. Darren Jackson Jr. says Brennan must be ready for be made of tissue paper, my God. Jack Davis brings up something interesting. Says Drontre Kirkland will be the third string quarterback. He will going into camp. He will be going into camp. You might have to pull out of Kentucky. If you don't know what I'm referencing there, Kentucky had 2 seasons, had to put a wide receiver at quarterback just to play games. Peggy Red says NCAA needs to address getting scholarships back for transfers, especially the tight end that was here for one day. Yeah, Peggy, I agree with you there. And I don't like the scholarship limitation. I know that they want to put it on a fair, equal playing field, but I think it hurts a team more than it helps a team. But the NCAA's, and it's not really an NCAA thing. It's the SEC that puts that 25 limit mandate on it. The thing with that is that they tell teams that, well, you should have scouted the player better. That's on you for signing the kid in December or February. That's on you. That's on the school. So there's both sides to that. Jackson says less running with Max. I don't really know that. I don't really know that because look, Garrett's still there. Now, if Garrett goes in, then and Max gets hurt. But the problem with all of this is that we're assuming that Max is going to get hurt, right? Like Joe Burrow never got hurt in 2019. Max didn't get hurt last season. Danny Etling, I mean, I remember he got banged up a little but look, he's still in the league. My man's still making football teams. I mean, guys, a lot of quarterbacks don't go through a season without having to miss snaps because they're hurt. Tony Williams says this helps Pete's approach to Paul Batts. I agree. It helps and knows what he needs to do. Who's going with? Gino on Periscope says, I hate it for Myles, but it gives the rest of the team a chance to grow in camp with Max and their guy. The reps don't get split. Yeah, I see a couple of Rudy Poos of the week. Put your Rudy Poos, hashtag Rudy Poo of the week at the end, and we'll bring it up. Ryan Thibodeau says, hashtag Blake pro or con. Pro to con or what? Oh, he sends us this. $2 on YouTube. I appreciate that. Everybody that sends us stars and super chats, we appreciate it. He says, could this be a side effect of name, image, and likeness? Now, this is an interesting point and something that we really haven't touched on. We touched on a little earlier. What happens now? Do businesses and sponsors take a step back because a guy that just had to deal with Hollingsworth, Richards Ford, Canes, small sliders, do they start taking a step back now? Like, hey, this kid's injured. I don't know that. I mean, common sense to me would feel like they won't because all across America, quarterbacks aren't getting hurt. This is not par for the course. This isn't something that happens every day. But I think some people will probably take a step back from it. And you got to be smart with it. Buck says he should have been trying to get ready for the season and starting spot instead of horse playing. Now, I saw this. Now, Paul Batts says Billy Lucci is already having to address Jimbo leaving A&M rumors. I saw it today on TexAgs Rewind. As a LSU Texas alum, I every so often tune in for a chuckle. I haven't really seen that too much. And why would Jimbo leave? Mark says severe arm injury, what actually happened. Some are even saying it was like a skiing accident, if you were in a skiing accident and you broke your arm that bad, number one, what were you doing skiing? Mark LaGrange, my good friend Mark LaGrange. Guys, he's always on the sidelines. As you can see in his profile picture here on Facebook, always takes pictures for Fox on the sidelines. If you see him this upcoming season on the Saints and our LSU sidelines, tell him, hey, Mark, tell him a hello. Good friend of mine, Mark LaGrange. He says, can LSU turn Max loose given the lack of depth? Absolutely they can. Absolutely they can. Everybody's so scared. Put him in bubble rep. Put him in bubble rep. Guys, you don't play the game like that. You don't play the game like that. Scott says, came in late. How did Myles get hurt? Scott, what I'll say is just go to the beginning of the show, my man, and see what we've been talking about because it's a lot to rewind. That'd be the third or fourth time I've mentioned it. Mark also says Brennan should intern under Pete's and become an OC one day. That's something you could definitely do for him. You can definitely make him a GA. He's already graduated. Make him a GA. Make him the spot. But look, I mean, if he's going to be able to come back, let him go through the rest of this year. If he wants to be a GA, I'm all for it. The guy's been around a lot of good offensive minds. If he wants to do it, let him do it. Let him do it. Let him get a taste for it. And look, Ed has stood by Myles. Ed has 100% stuck by Myles, and Myles is stuck by Ed now. Myles, a lot of quarterbacks would have left in 2018 when Burrow was named the starter. Would have left. A lot of quarterbacks would have left when they saw the writing on the wall in the spring game when Max took over and started at QB1, if you will, in that spring game. A lot of quarterbacks would have transferred. We saw Finley do it. But that should tell Finley, too, as I mentioned earlier. That should tell Finley, too. Guys, you got to be patient, man. You got to be patient. I see a couple of people ask me about the A&M rumors this weekend. Let me get to that very quickly. Number one, they're not rumors. So I was advised of a situation about a couple of recruits, and people keep telling me to share the video. I'm not going to do that. Number one, there is another video that was deleted from the weekend at Texas A&M. Number one, let me say this. There was a video that was out there of a college head coach at Texas A&M having drinks with parents, recruits, in this little Texas A&M bash. Number one, that's against the rules, and you can't do that. Number two, at 1 a.m. this past weekend on Saturday morning, started a dead period. The video was live and was after 1 o'clock, the second video that was deleted. In that situation, and which made me start looking into this, is I heard some chatter about Max Johnson from a couple of people at A&M, and the coach and a couple of people are talking. You can't really hear it in the first video. However, in the second video, and asking people that were there this weekend, they advised me that the Texas A&M coach, the linebackers coach, I can't remember his name, and a couple of other people were talking some serious trash about Max Johnson, and trash was the word that kept coming out. I was advised by people that were there that they kept calling Max Johnson trash, and that they kept saying something about if he got hurt, he's going to run back into his daddy, Big Bad Brad, and they started laughing about the Twitter stuff. So that is more of what I was referring to, and said, guys, what are you doing talking about a player that's on campus? What are you doing about talking about a player that you offered and didn't come to your school? Keep up that same energy, man. And as Paul Batts put in the comments, as they're fielding rumors about Jimbo Fisher leaving, and Texas A&M and Texas, to the LSU players and fan base, feels like it's starting to become a really good rivalry. We don't like you. You don't like us. You think you're more than what you're worth. You think that you're all that. You got A&M fans in my DMs. I posted one earlier today on my Facebook and Twitter. You got A&M fans constantly sending me stuff that they're saying that they're on the same level as LSU. A team that has not won a national title since 1939 doesn't even need to put LSU in their mouth, other than the fact that they say, yeah, we play LSU this week, or we play LSU on this and this date. If you don't win national championships, if you can't even win your conference, You have no business whatsoever using these guys. If you're listening on the podcast, I'm pointing to my hat that says LSU. No reason whatsoever talking about LSU. None whatsoever. So I wasn't going to put that in there. You want to go find the videos, you want to start asking around, you can go right on ahead. But I'm not gonna do it. Stefan says, hate to take it here, but my Rudy Poo of the week would have to be Myles if he broke his arm on a boat while Max has his head down doing work. Yeah, if it's his flip-flop, my Rudy Poo of the week is the flip-flop. Jacob Simmons says Finley transferring is stinging a little bit here. Yeah, and it should be a little bit stinging to TJ. Should have been a little bit stinging to TJ. Danny Snow says, why would you be doing anything to put the team in jeopardy? I don't know, guys. I don't know. You're asking me a question that I can't answer. And if it's your first time listening to our show, I try not to hold back any punches. There's a lot of stuff that I don't come out here and say. There's a lot of stuff I do that a lot of people won't. I don't know. Nookie said, Cobble said it was a freak injury during drills. Nobody has told me there was a freak injury during drills. By the way, I'm going to leave that one alone. Jamie says, sucks for Myles Brennan. It's really disappointing to see a guy with that talent and loyalty consistently hit by the injury bug. I have all the faith in the world in Max is more capable to lead this team. It's a great way to put it, Jamie. It's a great way to put it. I mean, nobody is wishing or hoping or was praying for Myles to get hurt. Nobody. Come on, man. Brandon says, I'm surprised that Joe didn't get hurt considering that he took some big hits at times. Joe did get hurt. Joe did have a dislocated shoulder. Joe did get lit up by UCF and started bleeding underneath his chin. It should tell you two things about the injuries and the stuff that were going on with Joe Burrow. Number one, it should tell you the toughness that we already know about Joe Burrow. Nobody questions that. We saw it. Should also tell you the toughness of Myles during some of that too. Kid just has been hit by the injury bug. Again, I hate to see it. Don't wish nothing but the best for the kid. God, because it feels like I'm poo-pooing on the kid. I'm not at all. What injury are you getting hit with the left? And who hit him? Jackson says that first drive in 2019 versus A&M, Burrow was lucky he didn't get hurt on that horse collar. That's true. B.I. says, man, I hope it's not season ending. Me either. Kenny says the extra reps that originally would have gone to either Brennan or Mad Max will now go to Nuss. Not necessarily, Kenny. The number one reps, the first team reps are going all to Max. You might get 2 or 3 that go to Garrett every once in a while, maybe during the team period. But no, I mean, the first team reps that would have been split probably 50-50 between Max and Myles are now all going to go to Max. That's, I don't want to say one good thing because it's so shitty for me to say it's a good thing. There is a positive in the silver lining of Myles getting hurt is that you do have a quarterback that's going to be able to take all the first team reps. It's very horrible for me to say, and I get it because you don't want to trash a guy when he's down or when he's hurt or anything like that. However, you just do want to say that, if there is a silver lining in all of this, is that Max gets all the first team reps. Let's see. Guys, you can fire your questions in here. Terry says, as O said, our O-line will be our strength. We're about to see that. Look, man, I told you last week that's going to be what he said. I told you that's what 2 weeks ago, I said that Orgeron's going to do a press conference outside of SC Media Days, the Baton Rouge Rodeo Club, and he's going to tell you, and I'm quoting, the O-line will be our strength. There's video footage of it. I can't make that up. There's video footage of it from 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's like people when I said, as we've been talking, like I tweeted this last week. I said, as I've talked about on my shows, Coach Ed Orgeron states that the offensive line will be their strength offensively. And then people are underneath it saying, Blake, you didn't say it. Blake, you didn't say it. And then I got to go back to the video or the show that I said it, and then I copy it and then send it to them, and then like give them the time, and I forget what it is. That's a funny, that kills me. That was funny. Dorian on Facebook Live says, Jontre played quarterback at Lutcher, just like Jarvis Landry. Yeah. I mean, you hope you don't have to go that route, right? Like you hope you don't have to go that route. Mario says, explain that Alabama had 27 players in 2021 recruit plus transfer. It's because they used the blue shirt and the gray shirt transfer rule. How and what players they've done that to, I don't know. The blue shirt rule, I'd have to bring like Mike Scarborough back on to give us an explanation, because I know what it is. I just don't know how well I'd be able to articulate it right now. Basically, the blue shirt is that a kid can be on scholarship. He doesn't count against the 21. But you can't. There's like some restrictions on how you recruit him. He can't take an official visit. There's just a lot of things that have to go into it. And gray shirt, not on scholarship. I mean, there's a lot of different rules you can do it. But a lot of those quarterbacks. We had Kevin Hagan on too, who covers Alabama, goes on the Bill King show on Fridays, and he kind of explained it to us. So a lot of those kids are like blue shirting and gray shirting and stuff like that. Paul Batt says Aggies are up. LSU's jockstrap. Tex Ags bragging about Nolan Kane loading up the Aggies. Yeah, well, the one thing that Texas A&M fans and Texas A&M staffers, especially football, need to worry about is not buying. Well, I shouldn't say buying, because I'm going to know what's going to happen. A&M fans says you can't prove that, but you have parents of recruits out there drinking with you after the time and when a dead period starts. Like, and then a video being deleted. All right, a couple more. We're gonna get on out of here. Ryan says Rudy Poo of the week. Sean Bicknell, the A&M fan. Yeah, if you didn't see it, excuse me, guys. If you didn't see it, Sean Bicknell is a Texas A&M fan that was in my DMs saying something about me being wrong and fat. Which, look, I'm fluffy. So I get it. Henry says we gotta score 70 on Texas A&M this time. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind scoring 70 on A&M. I wouldn't let up. Yeah, we can talk a little recruiting. I've seen some recruiting questions pop in here. Jacob Marceau says, so what's the story with the Louisiana safety Jacoby Matthews decommitting? How do I want to word this? I'm going to use this as a whole, maybe not so much on Jacoby Matthews. Guys, name, image, and likeness, players feel that there's a bigger opportunity. Now, I do believe Jacoby Matthews is going to be an LSU guy. I just think that there's sometimes that players want to go out there and look. Derek Stingley, as I mentioned Saturday morning, on our Saturday morning show, Derek Stingley was a guy that decommitted, and then came in. And not only did he come in and re-sign with or recommit and then sign with LSU, he was a midterm grad. Jaqueline Roy is another guy that did that. There's a lot of guys that have done that. So I'm not necessarily worried. What the worry from people is that Jacoby Matthews was going to go to A&M. He was going to commit, but he never did that. And then he had a very cryptic tweet, and then some people said it was about LSU. Then a Ponchatoula coach told me it was not about LSU. It was about A&M because of some of the stuff that we were hearing in line with. This did not come from Jacoby Matthews at all, but we were in line with some of the stuff we heard this weekend. He said, I saw the true colors. So there's some conflicting reports on a cryptic tweet from Jacoby Matthews. At the end of the day, I still think he's going to be an LSU Tiger. He's talked about how much he loves LSU, but just wants to go out and look and see what's out there with name, image, and likeness, and I fully expect him to be back in this class. That's how I take all of it. Dwayne on Facebook says, we won't be a deep ball threat and accuracy will suffer. Dwayne, I don't agree with you there. I mean, go watch the Florida game with Max Johnson. Then how do you explain all of that? How do you explain him collecting long, deep passes across the middle? Jeray Jenkins was a guy. Kayshon Boutte. I mean, go look at Kayshon Boutte versus Ole Miss. I mean, you say that, and people said that about Burrow, but it's not necessarily the case. Not necessarily the case. Stacy puts it in here for us. Thank you, Stacy. Says, blue shirt, the kid is on scholarship but can't play. The athlete is not normally recruited but is put on scholarship and the start of freshman practice. There you go. There you go. That's how they're getting away with it. Brennan says, hashtag Ask Blake, did you hear about LSU getting Marion Miller, the 4-star wide receiver from Vivian, Louisiana, 6'2", 190 class of 2023? I saw that. Oh, that tiger. Yep, I saw it. Kenny Russell says Pete's offense will be quarterback friendly. Yeah, and I think Max is going to show that. I mean, guys, you got to open it up nowadays. Nowadays. Let's see. Juice Washington says Texas A&M was just crying about Texas coming into the SEC. Now they are big and bad. LMAO. Yeah, and I put a thing, I think it was last night, about Ben Baby, who covers the Cincinnati Bengals now, which is kind of ironic, who was on the Texas A&M beat, who did a public records request. Get this. Let me tell you how soft A&M is. Ben Baby did a public records request when he was on the Texas A&M beat and found emails from Texas A&M president, board of supervisors saying that, yeah, it's not likely. Yeah, we're not going to play Texas and all this kind of stuff. Like, didn't even make an effort to play Texas. So as much as we're kind of crapping on Texas here, A&M didn't want to play them. So Ben Baby, who did that, I mean, who reported it, that's just classic. Just classic. All right, let's get a couple more and we'll get on out of here. Herbert Williams says, how's that D-line looking? Good. We'll know more this weekend as camp starts Friday. And they'll go a little light to start off with. You'll get some video. Look. So because I've done this before, listen to this. And I'll get to Corey Smith's question here when he asked, who's the starter going to be at running back? This is what you're going to hear. You're going to hear Max is looking really good. He's getting really good timing down with his receivers. He's going to tell you that Ty Davis Price is really trimmed down, came in at 220, 225, catching the ball well out of the backfield. The offense is starting to click. Defensive line's getting serious pressure. He's going to talk about Mike Jones. Who, Mike Jones? And then you're going to hear about all the other linebackers, Bug Strong included. He's going to talk about the secondary's lockdown. That's what you're going to hear after this weekend. That's what you're going to hear. So as today is August the 2nd, remember that this was said, and when you listen to Ed Orgeron in the upcoming days after Friday in his next press conference, when the team was actually on the field, you're going to hear him say that. I promise you're going to hear him say it. Robert Law says, hashtag Ask Blake, what do you think about the 2022 quarterback forgoing his senior year and enrolling at Ohio State early? Yeah, talking about Quinn Ewers. I mean, number one, the first thought I had was about Walker Howard being the number one recruit in the country when it comes to the quarterback position. Now he overtakes that position or number one slot. When's the last time LSU signed the number one quarterback in the country? Is it going to be? Was it Perilou? I think it was Perilou. So you guys bean count me on that one. Bean count me on that one. I think it was Perilou. Wasn't Perilou number one quarterback in the country? I personally don't mind it, honestly. Because, guys, talking about this. So let's talk about Quinn Ewers. Okay, so here's the question about Quinn Ewers. Myles Brennan just got hurt, could be out for the season. Would you not want this with Walker Howard? So if you're going to poo-poo on Quinn Ewers, you're going to say, oh, he's going after the money. You're going to say every negative thing that you're going to say about Quinn Ewers with the Myles Brennan news today. Would you not want Walker Howard to be on LSU's campus this upcoming Friday and battling to be the starting quarterback? So we got to you can only pick two now. Personally, if it were my son in the situation that me and my wife are in right now, if I don't know how. I'm not saying that money, and I'm just gonna say it like it is. Money not being an issue, we live comfortably, but money not being an issue, we'd have to think long and hard about that. I would love for my son to play his senior year. I don't know if my son will ever get to that position. It's really hard to be really good. A lot of dedication and a lot of talent. A lot of talent. Dwayne says, easy, Blake, wide open receivers. Dwayne, did you see what happened in 2019? Did you see what happened last year with Alabama? Devontae Smith running wide ass open. You better, Dwayne, go watch that Florida game, buddy. Like, just go rewatch it. Dale Brusso said Perilou and Russell Shepard. Yeah, but Russell Shepard got moved to athlete there at the end, didn't he? Like Russell Shepard wouldn't like at the end of it. What a stupid. And Lil Boosie says, what's up, Lil Boosie? Boosie, we need to get you on the show, bro. He said Russell Shepard was the number one and in the country. Yeah, but when he moved to athlete, though, I mean, I could be wrong there. And David Pelt says, I don't think he was watching, period, Blake. I don't know. I don't know, but Jack Davis says Russell Shepard. So maybe he did. Maybe it was. But I thought that he wound up getting moved to athlete. Put it in the comments. See, Cooter Brown says Shepard was labeled as an athlete 5-star. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. Like he was listed at quarterback, and then when people started feeling that he was going to LSU, he got listed as an athlete because people knew that guy wasn't playing quarterback. I could be wrong there. Somebody just sent it to me. I could be wrong. I just thought he got moved to, but as Lil Boosie said, Boosie Badazz, that's me. Says Russell Shepard being number one in the country. That's true though. Like that's true. Stacey says, I think that Matt Barkley was in that same class as Shepard. God, that's so long ago, man. Right? Like, God, it just feels so long ago, doesn't it? Jeez and Pete. We're going over an hour. We started a little bit early. We need to get into it. Kyle says, I'd rather a quarterback go 9 of 10, 120 instead of 5 for 10, 150. You need to put more context there, Kyle. Like, is he going 5 to 10 to start off the game for 150 and a touchdown, 9 and 10 and no touchdowns? Because the only thing that matters here is who's scoring. If the guy 9 out of 10, 120 and he ain't scoring, need a little bit more context than that. There goes my dog. She's lonely. She's lonely. Tiger Maniac says, no, you're right. He started out as the number one quarterback, but then was moved to athlete. Okay. Dorian says the same thing. You're right, Blake. He was moved to athlete. I always thought about that. Jeremy Fontana says, I'll take 4-10 with 3 touchdowns. I will too, bro. I will too. Like, you got to put some context into that, right? Like, you got to put context into, is the guy 9 of 10 and you hadn't scored, or is the guy 5 and 10 and has a touchdown or 2? You know, like, you got to put context into it. John Stanley says, did I hear A&M tossing around some Bitcoin last weekend? There's a lot of Rudy Poo shit going on at A&M last weekend. A lot of sketchy shit. Trust me, I talked to LSU about it. Like I can't make that up. They'll confirm it. All right, let's do this. No, let's get a couple more and we'll get out of here. Ryan says Perilou and Cecil the Diesel was the two best players I watched in the 90s and 2000s. Cecil was crazy, man. Josh Carlos says starting safety locked in yet? I wouldn't say they're locked in yet. Josh, what I'd say is one of them is Jay Ward's your barring injury, God forbid, knock on wood. Jay Ward is. I kind of want to feel like and say Major Burns. I'm not going to go that far on that one yet. Because you do have Sage Ryan, you do have Jordan Tolles, you do have Derek Davis, you do have Todd Harris. Guys, if you really think about it in the Jacoby Matthews stuff, I just listed off a lot of damn safeties. Jay Ward, yes. As the free, I would say Jay has locked that one down. As the other, guys, I don't know that one yet. I think that's going to be a battle. I do think Major Burns leads. Major Burns will get the first reps. Outside of that, I think that it wouldn't surprise me if if you found out somebody beat out Major to get that position. It wouldn't surprise me. But I think Major Burns is a dog, though. Jeremy Fontana says, 5 of 10, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Shit, I don't care. I want to see Max sling it and get the second string in. I agree with that one. Patrick says, why are we talking about Art Shepard? Did A&M tell Jacoby Stevens he's going to play quarterback? LMFAO. Well, Jacoby Stevens, you talking about Jacoby Matthews. So in the spirit of that, we were talking about who's the last number one quarterback in the country that LSU signed. And because of Myles Brennan being injured, would you want Walker Howard to be on LSU's team now that Quinn Ewers has left his senior season and going to be in Ohio State? So, yes, you would. All right, let's do this. Let's get out of here. Been a fun night. I'm sure we'll have some more news tomorrow. And we'll go from there. Guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Been a fantastic show, really big show. I appreciate you guys for all your support. We'll see y'all soon. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.